Hey everyone, thanks for coming out today. I'm Sarah Darby, I'm the president of ONA Mizzou. That stands for Online News Association. It's basically a national organization that has student and professional chapters. They have a huge conference every year. This year it's in LA. It's all about digital media, and we're all about digital media, but we really feel like anybody in journalism across the board, you might be asked to tweet, blog, you're going to be doing something with digital media, so these skills are really important. And our organization is really about building skills and training opportunities for you all, and building a community to really meet some other journalism students who can really help you along with any questions you have. And that's kind of what we're about tonight. We just wanted to create a panel for you guys to informally meet some other journalism students who may be taking classes you haven't yet. So this is just an opportunity to ask any questions you have. Since we're a smaller group, that'll be nice because you can really talk with them afterward or really ask really honest questions. So can we get started, I guess, by having everyone in the room first introduce themselves, maybe say your name, your age, and where you're from, and I guess maybe like the most fun thing you did this summer, ripping off from our other organization.
So what we're going to have you guys do is just tell us your name, what year you are, your emphasis area, and then your interest area if you want. Also, by the way, so emphasis area, we just found out, is the big one. Emphasis area is photojournalism, magazine, convergence, the major one. And interest area is what you're going to do within that. So mine is convergence, radio producing, or you can be what Michaela is, broadcast, TV, radio producing. There's small ones inside of each one. So go ahead and say your emphasis and your interest area. And then go ahead and tell us why you chose that emphasis area and a little bit like about what you do within it.
Okay, sure. Hi, I'm Courtney. I am a senior strategic communications major. I'm from Dallas originally, and I interned there over the summer as well at an advertising agency. I guess you could consider my interest area something in strategy, so either account planning or research, which is really specific and throws out a lot of terms. Essentially, after graduation, I either want to go work at an advertising agency or kind of like a smaller boutique strategy firm that, that's the easiest way to explain it, is either you are strategizing for brands, figuring out the best way to either brand them, their image as it appears to everyone else, or if you are an advertising agency, you're the person that figures out what target audience to go after, how to best reach them, and doing kind of all the research to figure out what the best way to reach them.
I'm Michaela Tucker. I'm a third-year student in the broadcast department, but I'm one of the few radio production kids. And I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and yeah, Minnesota is great. And basically what I'm doing right now at KBIA and the Health and Wealth Desk there is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and that's write and produce and report radio stories, whether that be for any public radio station or podcast. If you're not listening to any podcasts, check them out. It's like the new fun thing for everyone. So yeah, all audio storytelling is my thing.
My name's Elise Schmeltzer. I'm from Austin, Texas originally. I'm print and digital. Watchdog is the interest area of this one. It's like investigative journalism, basically. I've done most of my work I do is on like cops, reporting, crime reporting in courts. So a lot of sad. Oh, I work at the Missourian now. I'm doing my advanced reporting semester. But I've also edited there, done other stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of. I write a lot of sad stories. I joke and tell people I have the death beat. It's kind of true, but a lot of interesting stuff happens there.
I'm also Elise, but I have two L's. So Elise Verheyen, I'm from Branson, Missouri, so it's pretty great. I am photojournalism with an emphasis interest in photojournalism, because I don't think there's actually like little ones. It's like a super small department, which is great. It's all like one big happy family. I don't know what I want to do with my life at all. So ideally, BuzzFeed will just hire me and let me do whatever I want. So, yeah, that's really about it.
My name is Berkeley Lovelace. I am a senior convergence journalism student with an interest area in science and health. I'm from Overland Park, Kansas. Basically what I want to do is I want to do multimedia reporting, mainly focused around like science and health. My end goal is to potentially work with National Geographic, hopefully from like anywhere. And right now I'm mentoring with Craig Welch. He's actually a multimedia reporter at National Geographic, and he's kind of just helping me like get the best way to like get to that job. So basically, that's what I'm doing. And then I'm also in Capstone this year.
Hi, I'm Rose Schmidt. I'm radio, television, anchoring, and reporting, so broadcast. And this is my 3rd year, and I'm currently in the advanced reporting class. And I work at KOMU. I reported there most of the summer. I also kind of have a death beat going on. I covered like some really depressing stories. It's mostly what we covered. No, that's not really true. But I also like to write. I wrote for USA Today over the summer too while I was working at KOMU, so that's cool. And why did I pick broadcasting? I guess a lot of people think, you know, you just have to have a pretty face and like, I don't know, that's typically what people think of when they think of people who are on TV. But I like to think of it as, you know, you're doing a service to the world in the same way like you do with print, so yeah, something like that.
Hi everyone, my name is Adrienne Donica and I'm from Cincinnati. I'm a senior magazine editing student here, and right now I'm currently working for Vox, which is kind of what I want to do in the future, is be a magazine editor, which means pitching and editing stories. Pick up today's issue. The feature was edited by me, and it's awesome.
It's also written by her. Yeah, it was all Adrienne.
Anyway, yeah, I decided on magazines though because I was a yearbook kid in high school and came here with a pretty open mind about things, but just decided that I really liked the length and all the other great things about magazines.
And then we also have one other who's not going to be on the panel, and that's Maria Davidson back there. And she kind of made her own emphasis area, I guess. Or was it the emphasis area?
Yeah, so technically an option is to create your own interest area too. They make it like a little bit difficult. I'm not sure they actually want you to do that, but I didn't tell you that. So you have to find like a mentor, and then you can kind of like pick and choose your classes, like to kind of like fit whatever model you want. So I'm taking some classes from almost every area. I'm not taking any broadcast classes, and I'm not taking any photo classes. But every other area, I've like dipped my fingers into a little bit. I'm technically a conversion student though.
So anyways, she's not going to be on the panel, but if you are interested in that at all, that's sort of off the beaten path, you can totally go talk to Maria. So the way we're going to work this is you can tweet a question or ask a question, and we have our Twitter monitor back there, Ryan Levy. So he'll do that, or you can ask a question. And for you guys, just you guys can aim it at a specific person. You know, if you want to have a question specifically about the broadcast, they can answer it. And otherwise, you guys just, if you have a good answer, that's fine. But not everybody has to answer. So as you feel. So does anybody have a question right off the bat, or I can start? Okay, cool. Well, the first thing when I came as a freshman, I was really wondering what to do about the student publications. Like, do you go to the Maneater? Should I work for KCOU? Like, is that going to give me the experience that I need, or can I go directly to the Missourian or KBIA or one of the outlets? So what do you guys think? Should freshmen look into? Is it beneficial for them to be doing student publications?
I'll start. So I worked for MUTV, which is like the student television station on campus for my first 2 years, and Lauren works there now. I can say that MUTV made me into the person I am, and it made me 100% more prepared to go to KOMU. So there's people that started off at KOMU like their first semester, and now they're just burned out and they don't want to be there anymore. But you didn't hear that from me. And so I guess, I don't know, I came in kind of with the opposite attitude. Like, I was willing to do whatever it took to get, like, to the top, I guess, but not really. And so, I don't know. MUTV definitely prepared me, so I would recommend it to anybody who wants to be in broadcast.
I can speak for the I briefly worked at the main year. I did like 5 or 6 stories within my first semester of my freshman year. Didn't like it for a variety of reasons that I really don't remember now. And instead, I joined this like little startup campus news thing, which no longer exists, called Zoofeed. And I learned a lot doing that actually, just because we had no infrastructure. You know, it was brand new, and we messed up a lot. But it's like it was a really safe space to mess up because no one was really paying attention to us. So I learned a lot there, and I guess my takeaway from what I'm trying to say here is, yeah, working at publications, you know, that's good. You can get good experience there, but don't be afraid to take risks and try different things. Don't feel like you have to work at the Maneater or MUTV or whatever it is, because you're still a freshman or a sophomore, and you have room to figure out what you want to do.
To speak to that point, I never worked for any of the student publications on campus. I decided to join other like peer education groups and involve myself with activism on campus. And I've also never had like a fancy internship. Like I worked on a ranch in New Mexico this summer, and I think sometimes the school can try to force you into the track of like you need to work, like you need to get these internships. And while that can be like really beneficial, it's also awesome to explore all the other things that this campus and world offers. And like I learned a ton this summer from a job that like I probably will never have ever again. But I think it totally informed like how I report, how I write, and how I approach stories now.
Getting me in trouble here. My boss from KOMU just tweeted at me, "Oh, thanks, Rose."
Can you guys talk a little bit about like on the more professional outlets like the Missourian and KBA and KOMU? Can you get involved as a freshman and sophomore? And have you guys? It doesn't have to be necessarily from your own experience, but how do they do that?
I know at like KOMU you can definitely easily get involved. They have like digital producers and then also production assistants. Also desk assistants.
Production
too.
and desk is typically what people do as freshmen.
Yeah. And like it takes little to like no training. Really, you just go in there, shadow somebody, and like you're in. Like you can get like lots of experience. I know people have like actually like even anchored before they joined their reporting class and stuff like that. It's pretty easy at KOMU to get involved.
Yeah, you can do what they call cut-in anchoring, which is like, if you've ever seen during the Today Show, they say, we're going to cut to our local news now, and then that's when people from KOMU read like 3 or 4 headlines usually, and they call it like level 0 of anchoring, and there's 5 levels, but yeah, and you can, like you said, production assistant, which basically means you cut, so like anytime you see stories that are not done by KOMU, so national stories, the footage comes from NBC and CNN, and production assistants cut that video, and they just teach you how to use the editing software, and then you're pretty much good. And then desk assistant, you can work, you like call sources and monitor the phones.
Yeah. Also, if like you're interested in convergence, probably being a digital producer would help as well, because you kind of get a little bit of that experience working with like social media and also a little bit of video as well.
They recommend that you say 2100 first before you do that though. Yeah, but you're basically writing web stories for KOMU.
I know at Vox we always have contributing writers every semester, and actually our magazine, we do have reporters that are working for us, but a lot of our feature stories actually come from contributing writers. I'm not sure exactly what the requirements are, but every semester they go around finding people, so if you're interested in writing for us, just keep an eye out.
I guess speaking on the strategic communication side, because it is a little bit more difficult, given that there is not, like a Missourian or a KOMU. If you've heard of Mojo Ad, that was something that I'm actually doing right now, which is one of the capstones for the advertising sequence. So it's essentially, if you have ever gone over into Neff Annex, there's a fully student staffed and student-run ad agency, and so we have a client that comes in every semester, pays to be our client, and then at the end of the semester, there's 30 kids on the teams that are responsible for pitching an ad campaign to them. So that's kind of what strategic communications dubs like the Missouri method, but since that is kind of something you have to wait until your senior year to do, One thing that I got involved with my freshman year, as well as Devin can speak to, is they have AAF, which is the American Advertising Federation run out of here. And so not only do they do kind of little group sessions where you get to know people, they'll bring in mentors, have them talk about their experience, but they also compete in what they call NSAC, and so it's a National Student Advertising Competition. It happens every year across the nation. They have a client, kind of like Mojo Ad, that comes in, pays to be the client. This year it's Snapple. And what the unique thing is about Mizzou, and one of the things that I really loved about it, was that at every other school it's typically run as either a capstone or a class, but here it's run as an extracurricular. So my freshman year I got involved, got to do a lot of research for them, and then sophomore year, because it is student run, I was an account planner for them. Devin, I think, were you an account planner as well? You did.
I was on the presentation team.
Yeah, so, but essentially, like, at the end of it, it lasts all year. It's, like I said, it's all students that do it, so they need copywriters, they need art directors, they need PR people, everyone to assist with that. But Devin and I, our sophomore year, got to go to Kansas City and pitch to the client. So there were 4 of us, 3 of which were sophomores, that there was 50 people in there from a bunch of different Kansas schools, a bunch of different Missouri schools. We had a 20-minute presentation. We got to, the client that year was Mary Kay, and so there was, a woman there that works the Mary Kay headquarters and that sort of thing. So that was a really good way, kind of a long story short, that's one of the really good ways I would say that if you are interested in strategic communications, to kind of dip your feet into it a little bit earlier than waiting until junior or senior year.
They do ABC visits too, so like AEF is actually going to some ABCs in Chicago, I guess, over the next week or 2. So those some really cool experiences that you can get involved with, like actually go to some of these ABCs in like St. Louis and Kansas City to see like how they work and like get to meet some of the people there. So it's good networking stuff too.
Do you guys have anything? Also, like, if there's anything that's just like a topic, that you're like, what is this about, you can ask it. Like, it doesn't have to be a well-formed question. You guys will get that in your journalism training, trust me. But until you guys have anything, talk about, so one of the things I know also that's really important, and you tend not to get into it until you get to your emphasis area, but building relationships with your professors, because they're the ones that are going to give you recommendations and help you do study abroad and get internships and stuff. So how did you guys forge those relationships?
I feel like I've developed a pretty strong relationship with the editor I had at the Missourian. I did my basic reporting semester with her, and then was her TA for 2 semesters, and now taking the second reporting class with her. I also babysat her dog, and like we go out and drink beer. Like, it's a very solid relationship, and I think one of the ways to do that is, just do your job well. Whatever you're supposed to be doing, do it well, and be willing to. If she or he asks you to do something, do it. Just say yes, even if you're like, oh my God, I've never gone to the courthouse before. I don't know where the courthouse is, and I'm supposed to go cover this hearing. I'm very scared. Just go, do it. You'll figure it out. They'll appreciate your willingness to go out on a limb. Take risks. I think I'm just gonna keep saying that.
With like PhotoJ, it's so small, and so it's super easy to get to know your professors. And even when you're in your emphasis area, for the most part, they seem pretty small. And what I did was, with like mine, you can start your track early by going in and talking to the dean of the PhotoJ or chairman. I don't really know what he is, but the important people. And you just go in and you talk to them, and you kind of realize that they're like real people and they have lives, and kind of get to know them. So like I hang out with some of my PhotoJ professors and like the TAs and the grad students, and you just kind of get to know the people around you, and it makes that like circle of people so much smaller, and you can kind of rely on them, and they're great for future jobs and stuff. Like I was sitting, I work at the photo locker in the J school, and was sitting across from David, who's like our chair guy, and he just got a phone call from Jim Richardson, who's like this amazing photographer for National Geographic, who I've been like obsessed with and follow on Instagram, and he's just like, hey Jim, what's up, and just hanging out. And so, get involved in like, there's, different events and like retreats, like MPW is a thing, and you go and you just hang out with like all these amazing photographers for a week and just, do it. You just go. It's really great for you.
Yeah, radio only has one faculty member, so you'll get really tight with Ryan, like maybe a little bit too close, but he's super great and super helpful, and like if you're interested in radio and like you make that clear to him, he spends a lot of time with you to make sure that like you're doing what you want to do. So like this semester, I don't have to write any day turn stories for class, which is great. I only get to do features and special projects, and that's because I built that relationship with him. So spending the time with your professors and like talking to them about like what your goals are can really help in the long run.
One of the nice things at KOMU is that two of the people who are there all the time when I'm there, they're working nights. They're both like 30 or 31. So, I mean, they were literally in my shoes, 9 years ago? And so they get it. And then the rest of the people there are all also Mizzou grads. I think most of the professors here are. And so they also understand. And so it's really nice to be able to not only have them critique your work, but also like joke around with them. I think it's kind of something that like we all kind of, I think, can agree on. It's pretty cool.
And I mean, you guys can agree or disagree that it's pretty easy to reach out to professors. If you find a professor somewhere that you want to be and just email them and ask them if they can chat for a little bit or go out and get coffee, like most of them are pretty accommodating to that, and they'll be happy to help.
And I would say, I would just add on to that, when you do ask your professors for recommendation letters, write a thank you note, because that goes a long way.
Okay, so you guys talk about either the first time or like the worst time that you screwed up when you got to J school, and then how you came back from that, because we're all obviously still in J school, and we've all had screw ups, so.
I can start this one. This is a good one. So my first day reporting at KOMU as like reporting for class was actually the day that the gay marriage decision, or the same-sex marriage decision came out in the Supreme Court. So as you can imagine, that is not only a national story, but there's also so many local angles to that. And so my first day was that story, and then the Boone County Government Center had a press conference, and so I was like, oh yes, I got this, and because I knew the basics of how to work camera, we'd been taught all those things, and I went in, and then I texted somebody who was working on like another part of the same story, and I was like, just so I'm clear, like, how do I make sure that it's actually recording? And he was like, the big red flashing button. And for some reason, it just decided to not work. Like, the camera did not work. And I don't know, like, to this day, I still don't know what's wrong, because I've used the camera thousands of times since, and it's never decided to fail me. But of course, my first day on the job was like, oh yes, of course she's going to fail. So that was a great time. How did I recover from it? Well, it's kind of a rough story. Like, somebody else from KOMU had to come and help me through it, and then now we ended up, now that girl and I are like working side by side as like complete equals, so it's kind of interesting how I like rose up to that point. But yeah, it was a rough time, and I went home that night feeling like I had failed, but then I was back at it next week, and then I never had any sort of screw up anywhere near, actually, I don't think I really screwed up like anywhere near monumentally that point since then, so guess it worked out.
Yeah, and also like to piggyback off that, like in terms of like technical difficulties, it's probably gonna happen once or twice, and it's really okay, even though if the professor may not say that it's okay, it's okay. You may come back and you'll look at your video and it didn't record, or there's no sound, and you'll want to cry, but it will be okay. I would say that.
I guess from a writing perspective, one thing that I know that's happened a lot to me is when I'm recording some of my interviews, it doesn't record or it didn't happen, and I was of course relying on that for those perfect exact quotes. So then I start to write the story and realize I don't have any of that information, and it's a little bit of a struggle to figure out what to do. So when they tell you to take good notes, do it. But yeah, I mean, you
can always call someone back and ask them. So.
It's the nice thing about writing, I guess. Broadcasting, you can't really do that, but. I guess. Oh, Darbs.
Oh, Jim. We have a question from Twitter.
Yeah.
Did any of us have anything you wanted to say? Okay. So this is from Donovan Patterson, who's also sitting right here. You feel free to ask this question.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Do what you want.
What about journalism for you makes it a career, so not a job, but a career that you're excited about doing when you get on with it?
You mean a career as opposed to hobby? I like it because I feel like I can affect change, and I feel like I have been able to do so kind of already. Just by, you're not supposed to be an activist when you're a journalist, but by making something important and making the public think it's important, you can do a lot. And also I think just being able to tell stories that wouldn't, it's kind of cliche, but it's true, like the stories that wouldn't get told and get swept under the rug. Like earlier this semester, last week, I wrote a story about this guy who got hit, was involved in a hit and run, basically, and the police wouldn't investigate. They just said it was himself. He just lost control of his motorcycle, and then the family called us and that's not what happened. And so I looked into it. The police themselves said it was probably a hit and run, didn't investigate. I started looking into it, started pressuring. They arrested a guy last week, as I was writing the story, which was annoying, so I had to rewrite the story. But just, it's just, car accidents happen all the time. These things happen all the time. Just being able to put the focus on that and making the police do their job, I think that's cool.
You also just get to spend time with really cool people that you wouldn't otherwise get to talk to. My last feature was on a woman who runs the LEAD Institute, which advocates for deaf and hard of hearing victims of crime. And she's completely deaf, but I got to talk to her for a half hour and interview her, and she's an amazing person. And my life is definitely made better by knowing her. So.
And you do cool things. I got to learn how to fly a plane last weekend. Just for funsies. Yeah, it's
for fun. Yeah, no, for me personally, I do it because I love people, and I just love. I'm not so much of a storyteller, which I'm actually discovering is kind of hindering, but I just love listening to people, and I love hearing stories, and I love being able to bring that to light for others, that making people realize, you're not the only one that's going through this, or so many more people are like you, or you are special, and just kind of being able to do that and not necessarily focus on the bad. I'm such an optimistic journalist that no one's ever gonna hire me. You'd be hard-hitting, Elise, hard-hitting. Just really like these puppies. So yeah, I do it because it's fun and I enjoy it, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
I have a little anecdote I guess I could share to this. So one of the stories that I've done that stuck with me the most was about a fire that killed 4 kids in the Lake of the Ozarks. And I actually covered the story for 17 hours straight the first day because it was breaking news when I was at KOMU at 2 a.m. So I had to drive to the Lake of the Ozarks, and then I was on that story from about 2 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Very, very long day. But I covered it for the second day, and there's a lot of details to the story. I could tell you them for the rest of my life. But so basically, there were 4 kids, and they all were killed in the fire, and they were cousins celebrating one of their birthdays. It was a horrible, horrible story. And so the second day, it was kind of okay, well, what angle can we take now? Because we need to do some kind of follow-up on this. And I had looked into a GoFundMe page that was started the day of the fire for the families because they lost everything in the fire. It was in a condo, so completely destroyed. And they also had to pay for 4 funerals, which is horrible. But so I looked into the GoFundMe page to see who was the creator of it and all the implications involved in it, because GoFundMe pages have the tendency to not be legit. So I went to talk to the owner of the restaurant where all 4 of the parents worked. So there were 4 kids, and they had 2 sets, or there were 2 families, but they were all cousins. So all 4 of the parents I think worked at the restaurant. And so I went to the owner, and when I got there was a reporter from KSPR there, which is a Springfield station, and I realized that he was talking to the owner, the GoFundMe page owner, who also owned the restaurant, and instead of interviewing on camera. And I was like, okay, well, this is rough, because part of my job is to get people to go on camera. I have to coerce them in any way that I can. And so he's just standing there taking notes, talking to the guy, and I was like, okay, great, so he's not going to talk on camera. So I go up to him and I was like, okay, so, you know, I'm a reporter from KOMU. I was wondering if you'd like to talk on camera to me. And he was like, no. And like flat out, there was no changing his mind. He was one of those people who was just like, media is bad and, you know, all that fun stuff. He thought I was going to misrepresent him in some way, and he didn't want to be unfair to their families. And so I was like, okay, well, can I take notes then? He's like, yeah, sure. I'll talk away, ask me whatever you want. So I took notes, and then he was giving me like the greatest sound bites, like the greatest quotes. It was like, you know, these families were hardworking people, the kids were amazing, just like, anyway, so giving me great quotes, and I just looked at him and I was like, I really wish you would talk on camera. And I said that to him like multiple times. I was like, you know, when you say this stuff, it means something completely different than it does when it comes from me when I say it on camera. And he was like, yeah, I understand that, but whatever. So then I tried a few more times to get him to go on camera. And then I think one of the last things I said to him was like, I understand your decision, but, you know, I still wish you would. But anyway, so then I left, and I called back the station. I was like, you know, couldn't get him to go on camera, blah, blah, blah. And then he called KOMU and said, tell the reporter to come back and I'll go on camera for her. Because something I said to him was like, you know, these kids, I obviously did not know these kids who died in this fire, but you did. And so there's something really powerful in me telling, and you telling your story as opposed to me doing it. And I guess something I said appealed to his emotion, and so I got the story, and KSPR didn't, but which is kind of cool. But yeah, but I guess like something that I've learned, what you take away from that story was that when you talk to people and you like actually empathize with them and you're able to tell their story, it's like a magical thing. And I don't think I could do that in any other career.
So on the flip side of that, because
yeah, sorry, I'm on the
most of what I do is not that. I think I'll try and widen it just because like I'm super specific in like what I like to do. But I think there is a lot of storytelling in communications, which is one thing that you don't immediately think of. Like when we work on ad campaigns, or when you're working for you know, a specific brand and you're doing their social media, or you're doing their PR. I think it's, you know, you're not only trying to convey who this brand is, but like one thing that's so popular today is portraying that brand in a humanistic way to where people relate to them. So like if you think about brands like, I mean, anything like Chipotle, where you feel like you go look at their social media, or Taco Bell is a really good example. You go look at their social media and you feel like you're talking to like a friend, or you can just very clearly see their personality. I know that sounds kind of surface level because they're not a person, but I think it's just so cool that you get to work with people every day. Working at an ad agency, you get to, like one of the clients that we got to work with this summer was Taco Bueno. And you get to meet the people that work for Taco Bueno, and all they do day in and day out is breathe and like eat Taco Bueno, literally. But there's something in that they just really, you know, they value who their company is, they value how they're portrayed to people, and they really value that human connection. And so being able to work with these people to kind of get to portray that to everyone else, especially in today's society where, you know, a lot of us just think like, oh, these brands don't actually care about it, is kind of one of the really cool takeaways, I think, of being able to work in communications today.
What else you guys got? Are we talking about stuff that you want to hear about? What else do you want to hear about?
What about like internships? How do you get those?
The grand question.
That's a full-time job.
So a really great resource that is specific to our J school is the Career Center. What's the official name? Yeah, Career Center. Anyway, you guys probably have already started receiving emails from them. Barbara Willis. Anyway, that's a really great place to look for postings as you are kind of approaching things.
One thing I will say is it's never too early to start planning, especially if you're interested in more prestigious news outlets or communication firms, because those deadlines actually end up being in the fall. So that's usually always where I start.
Professors too.
Yeah.
They always have good resources.
Yeah, I would say professors are like, honestly, like one of the best resources. Like they know people that they've worked with in the past and they still like keep up with them. But also another thing I would say, like when actually like applying for the internships, a very important thing is to like keep following up with them. That'll go a really long way. I feel like the people know that like you actually care about working there and like will want to see you. So yeah, definitely always like when you're applying for internships, like give a phone call and just say, hey, like I'm just wondering, I know the deadline's not over yet, but I was just wondering how like the process is going, and they'll know your name.
Talk to other journalism students too. As you can see, people in this room have gotten really, really great places they've worked.
You can also be added to like Slack lists or Facebook groups that people in the field will do postings, so you're just gonna have to work your way into those. But there are a lot of opportunities that get posted within those.
There's also the StratCon Career Fair this February, and there's a lot of bigger agencies there that are probably relevant for like you younger guys. But there's a lot of local Columbia agencies that go there, which are great opportunities to get some connections. Like after my sophomore year, I worked for an agency called Influence and Pro here in Columbia. There's like 3 or 4 agencies that you can probably get a job like after freshman year or even after like sophomore year. So if you guys want to come to that and look at some of the local agencies that are like smaller, those are some great opportunities to get some entry level positions and you get some internship experience. And a lot of them hire after the internship too. Like I was hired on for a semester afterwards, which was really cool.
Yeah, I would say if you're interested in StratCon, there are so many resources here in Columbia. Like he was talking about Division D at Karma, Influence and Co. They all are. There's so many Mizzou people there that work there. A bunch of kids work there during the school year as well, not just the summer. And then, yeah, what everyone else was saying, a lot of the internships for StratCom, normally you don't start applying until the spring. They're a little bit later as far as like deadline dates go, but professors, and not only that, but older students, there are a lot of people that have interned somewhere and can get you like the same internship for them that next summer, so it's always really good to kind of make those connections with people.
And also on campus, we have a lot of professional organizations, you know, like investigative reporters and editors. Here we have the healthcare journalists, I don't know their actual names.
Association of Healthcare Journalists. Yeah,
and then we have religious editors too. So even if you get to stay here this summer to get residency, or you're just looking for an internship while you're doing classes, they're there. They're probably looking for a little bit of help too. So good places to talk to.
Use the mafia.
There are a lot of good places if you're staying in Columbia for the summer that you can still get stuff done. And also, this is kind of goes without saying, since you guys didn't say it, but like, if there's something big that you want to apply for, like seriously just apply for it. Because I don't know about you guys who had some of the bigger internships, but like, you'll be surprised, you know, that you'll hear back from people that you would think that you would never hear back from in a million years. So just try.
I applied to USA Today on a whim, and I was one of 25 people selected in the country, so that was pretty cool. Like I was just like, oh, there's no way this will happen, but
I did the same thing. Was it the collegiate
Yeah.
correspondent? Yeah, I did the same thing. I was like, oh.
Yeah. What else do you guys wonder about?
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to go first?
Or if you have a question, go ahead. I don't
I
care.
asked a question.
So if you have to, this is really specific, but if you have the credits to like graduate in like 7 semesters instead of 8, would you do it or like draw it out? Don't do it. I would draw it out.
Yeah. Speaking as a junior who's in B3 right now, so I technically like could graduate this year if I like got my act together. But I'm gonna take 4 years to graduate because I know that when I'll graduate from college, I'll have 3 years of clips and experience at KBIA, and so going to another station or going to a show, like I'll have so much more in my portfolio to be like, look, I've improved, give me money, please. And the opportunity to take more classes, like I'm minoring in like 3 things right now, and having the breadth of knowledge to do that just improves your work, whether you're StratCom or journalism.
Yeah, I'm in the minority here because I'm graduating in 3 years, so I guess that's 6 semesters. But the reason I'm doing it is it's like a combination of things. It's like financial, obviously it saves you a lot of money, and I kind of want to get started already in the real world, I guess. But I mean, you do what's best for you, I guess.
Speaking as someone who has graduated, and I saw a lot, I know my friends who graduated early, it really depends on what your justification is for graduating early or not. If you know what you want to do and you're like ready to get out of the field and like you're ready to go and you have enough to feel comfortable and you're like done with being here, then absolutely graduate early. But if there's some classes you want to take, I took like 8 hours my last semester as an undergrad because I could. You will lose your scholarship money if you do that if you don't talk to people first. So like, my parents were really happy with me. But really just think to yourself and say, am I better off? Like I right now leave and I get a job. Am I ready to start in the working field? Do I know what I want to do? Do I have other jobs out there? Because graduating in December definitely opens up a whole other sector of jobs. Everybody graduates in May, and so then in May you're competing against a much larger number of people, but the job market doesn't change that much. It's not like people fire in April so they can start hiring college grads in May. So definitely like weigh your options, but then if you there are a lot of classes you want to take that you haven't gotten yet or whatever, start thinking about that. Maybe I can stick around for another semester and work somewhere that I never worked before, or get clips, or just screw around and take classes that I'm never going to take again. So it just depends on what you want to do.
I have to say also, like, if you can do it financially, you're not just a journalism student, you're also a college student, and you're a young 20-year-old person, whatever. College will never probably happen again, and this is like a very special time, and I just feel like it's a really special. You get to like take classes that are cool. You can talk to professors that you never would have talked to. You can take less classes and go out with your friends more. Like it's not just like school is very important, but college is more than that. Especially if you're a journalism student, because you need to have a life to breathe. And if you can make that last longer, like I don't know why. I feel like it's a good thing too.
That was like kind of where I was at. Like I could have graduated this December, but I knew I really wanted to do the Mojo at capstone. And since it's like was so time intensive, like I was able to draw my credits out longer. And so I was like, I'm taking 12 now. Like I'll probably only be taking 9 in the spring. That way I have more time to devote to things that I actually really wanted to do. So that was like kind of my justification. Like I have the whereabouts to do it.
Something else to consider is like study abroad. I know it's really expensive, but like I just studied abroad for a semester. I was going to do it over a summer and then maybe I could graduate early, but if I did it over a semester, I get more credits from it, but also like you get all of this time to just spend and immerse yourself in a culture and get all of these opportunities. Like mine was an intern abroad, so I got to intern in London for 4 months. Like when else are you going to get to do that and pay $18,000? But also like the government will pay $18,000. But it's just like when else are you going to have the time to do that? And if you can graduate early, why not just study abroad and then have like it's still that experience.
There is scholarship money out there.
There is scholarship money.
It's hard to find.
It's hard to find, but it does exist.
I'm going to pause real quick before we go down this rabbit hole, which we can. I know that at least Elise has to go to a meeting, but if you guys have meetings and stuff to go to, you can. But I definitely want to keep getting your questions answered since we're down to stick around a little while after. So anyways, if you have to leave, good to go. Same with you guys. But yeah, what else do you guys have?
Did you?
There was a question.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
I was going to ask, because you mentioned something about internships before, and you didn't have an internship. I walked in at the tail end of it, and she was saying how they always try to push you, but even if you have a different experience, it's still valuable. Did you go over that again?
Yeah, so to kind of explain a little bit more like what I've been doing with my time since interning, I worked on the educational ranch this summer, which holds classes and art classes, nature things. There's horses and sheep and chickens, and we grow food, and so I worked with kids, and I was living in the poorest county of New Mexico, which is the second poorest state. So definitely a very different perspective coming from Minnesota, where I'm from, like, just a very different, yeah, great, so many Minnesotans. So it was a really great cultural experience because I got to learn about the history of the Spanish cultures combining with the native indigenous cultures and the oppression and like really difficult history our country has had with that, and working with teens in the community who are facing like really high rates of poverty and teen death because of drugs, alcohol, diabetes, and heart problems. So I got to encounter like these really, really difficult issues while not having to like write about them. It gave me the time to process them and learn and just listen instead of having to find that quote, find that soundbite. And then in my free time, I got to like climb mountains and like camp and do all these other wonderful things. So yeah, overall, like just a really solid learning experience, and taking the time away from the newsroom allowed me to like reevaluate, and it reinforced like my knowledge that like, yes, I want to do radio. So it's nice to step away sometimes if you can.
I also will add to that one of my experiences has been as I've gone out into the workforce and had internships and talked to other professionals, lots of people who are very successful, who are in like the middle of their career right now, maybe haven't come from a journalism background. It's a it's hard to say it's a relatively new thing because our school is so old, but seriously, like formal training in journalism is becoming the norm, but hasn't always been. And those very successful people always say it's really important to have life experience too. So not taking an internship one summer is not going to be the end of the world. Not being involved in one of the campus like one of the publications here, but finding another student org might be really a beneficial path for you to take.
Did you have a question in the back that you wanted to ask?
Oh, yeah, but now I have to go to a different meeting.
Oh. No worries.
Speechwriters.